And now week 37 ELA W. This also, actually this would be Tuesday's lesson. So today we are going to finish our narratives. Some of us are ready for that step and some of us are not yet ready for that step. But all of us need to, as best as we can, work to finish our narrative writing today, because tomorrow we're going to begin peer editing and the revising process. What you've just received is a checklist by which you're going to be graded and edited from your peer review. So let's have somebody read the aim of today, and we read, "We will be able to revise our peers' narratives using a checklist." Now, I'm not supposed to give you this until tomorrow, because it's tomorrow that your peer, who will be revealed soon, is going to be grading you. They're going to be using this checklist to grade you, and so that is why I'm giving it to you today, so that you could spend today looking through your work, hopefully finishing, and then looking back to make sure that every item on the rubric that is this checklist has been addressed in your narrative. Let's quickly read through so that we all know what we're looking for, and Mr. Vries and myself can answer any questions you may have about this process. So we'll just assign readers for the first four that are on page 1 of the checklist. So the first checklist, or check that we read, I describe the characters and or narrator, what they look like, how they speak, how they behave. This is going to be easy to grade, either you did or you didn't. Any questions here? We move forward. Next, I described the setting. We asked for 2 settings, so hopefully you have at least one that can be checked here. And ways that you describe the setting, we talked about sensory details. So make a little note by describe the setting that says sensory details, and by that of course we mean how did it smell, look, taste. Maybe you didn't taste your setting, but your other senses hopefully were activated in some way. Next, there are at least 2 examples of figurative language. We've encouraged you to do that. Some of you have done a great job with it. Some of you have gone a little overboard. And as you finish today, just make sure that you have 2, and they can be a mix match, but we want to see metaphor, simile, personification, hyperbole. Anytime you can do that, to stretch your points or to enrich your language, please do so. And lastly, on this page, there is a noticeable inciting incident that launches the conflict in the narrative. Something that sparks the conflict. We talked before about how those of you that wrote, and then we just started fighting, you're not servicing the reader. You're not making your narrative interesting when you just start fighting, and that's not how life works anyway. Something triggers us, and so your narrative should have that. And it should be easy for your peer review partner to find that, the trigger that snaps your narrative into conflict. Next, the conflict builds throughout the rising action. So tension is added through detailing the conflict, adding internal monologue, or withholding information. This is hopefully how we use our internal monologue to rise the action, to build the stakes, and let the reader know that you feel anxious when this person has triggered you, or that your characters feel threatened in some way. Next, you include dialogue, and we talked about 5 lines as the minimum. Those lines need to be done the right way. Hopefully all of us are familiar with the rules of dialogue now, to where we can comfortably and confidently grade each other. Next, there is a clear climax that serves as the turning point in the story. This should be simple for your reader to find and embolden or underline in your text. There shouldn't be any question as to what is the climax of your piece. Next, after the climax, there is a resolution to the problem or an intentionally unresolved ending. That you finish your story, that you do not stop in the middle of it because you're tired of telling it, but that the reader finishes the story with some satisfaction. And then last on this page, I use interesting and specific vocabulary, especially when describing movement. Right, if your partner reads your narrative and thinks like this is really basic, then they're going to tell you that in your score. So make sure that when you can, you enrich the vocabulary, and as we've encouraged you. Go to thesaurus.com, go to dictionary.com, try and find new, more interesting words, and if you're not sure that they match, please ask for our advice, because sometimes thesaurus.com might bring you in a direction where you don't want to go. We're closing in. My verb tense remains consistent. We've worked with that. All my sentences and proper nouns begin with capital letters. That's an easy one that we spend a lot of time correcting. All my sentences conclude with punctuation. The dialogue grammar rules have been followed, and there's a clear author style throughout as developed through vocabulary, sentence structure, and grammar. All of that are just rules that we've gone through as we've learned grammar in the class.